Today is Friday, March the 3rd. Time is 12:01. I would like to go ahead and call this meeting to order, conduct a roll. We have here Dr. Louis Alamia. We have Leti Garcia. We have myself, Miguel Mike Farias, our superintendent, Dr. Mario Salinas, Carmen Gonzalez, Leti Flores, and I forget your name, young man, but he is our legal representation from Kevin O'Hanlon. Very good. Thank you, Mr. David. This constitutes a quorum. Certification of public notice, sir.
I certify that the agenda was posted under the guidelines of the Texas Open Meetings Act.
Okay. I just wanted to go ahead and start. The reason why I called this emergency board meeting was because we can go ahead and address the situation that happened yesterday. It is important not only to the board, but to our administration, our staff, and our district to go ahead, and we're not here to cover anything. We're here to see what happened, and the reason why we're live streamed is so the public can know in real time what happened. Okay? So I want to make that very clear. We're going to get to the bottom of what happened. That way the public would know, and our media can get the answers to their many questions to make sure that we go ahead and address this situation in a professional, responsible manner. And I want this to be a productive meeting so we can learn and we can get better in everything we do, because we can always get better. So that is the reason why and the urgency of this. I'm going to start with the action agenda. 3A, discussion possible recommendations concerning bus safety protocols, procedures, and bus driver training. Dr. Salinas?
Yes, sir. We're going to have Mr. Barbosa do a presentation on their protocols and procedures, training, and other items of information, and also here to answer questions the board may have.
Very good. Thank you. Go ahead, sir.
Mr. President, Superintendent Salinas, Madam Vice President, and Madam Secretary, members of the board and legal counsel, members of the audience. I'm here to address the, like I said, complete transparency, Mr. President, and so I'd like to start with our presentation. Here we go. So we'll take the prong approach. These are the meetings and trainings that we've had for bus drivers. There are some certain trainings that are state mandated. We have books that are developed by the Texas Department of Public Safety, and those are handled through Region 1 Educational Service Center. These trainings are held by every single bus driver in the state of Texas. The initial test training, sir, is 20 hours long. It's over the course of 3 Saturdays. In English and in Spanish. These books are developed by the Texas Department of Public Safety, and they're covered very comprehensively. How do I know that? Because I've gone through the course myself. And at the end, each driver in the state of Texas must pass a written exam, and upon completion, you get your bus driver certification, aside from your CDL driver's license to drive a school bus, and everything that goes along with that. So initially, a driver would take 20 hours, and then every 3 years, you must go back for an 8-hour recertification. The driver in question had completed her 20 hours. She has not completed 3 years for her reevaluation. The other thing that I would like to cover, Mr. President, members of the board, is our district and departmental trainings, including the staff development training that we had this year in August, monthly staff development trainings that we have at our department, as well as our employee handbook that we have online for every single bus driver.
Mr. Barbosa, when was your last training?
We had it last Friday, sir, the 24th of February.
So your last training to the bus driver, now did this particular bus driver go through that training?
Yes, sir. Unless they were on there were some drivers that were on trips, etc. And so they're drivers. We also do regional school for the deaf, and so McAllen was not off. So we had a number of drivers that were doing those rounds. She is not part of that.
Okay, so the last time the district did this training was 7 days ago.
That's correct.
Did it cover this particular subject?
In general, yes, sir. Yeah, we cover this in every training, sir. You'll see it on the agenda.
Very good, sir. Thank you.
Yes, sir. And so we look back on Friday, August 12, 2022. We had our first meeting of the year at the Robert Vela Performing Arts Center. And we had training throughout the day, and this included leaves and absences, onboard cameras, employment discrimination, sexual harassment, different organizations that came down. We had adverse risk management, which was still part of our organization at the time. And you can see there, we had many videos. At the very bottom, child abuse and bullying recognition. And one of the things that we cover, this is the actual PowerPoint from that day, Friday, August 12th. It was done by myself and Mr. Eloy Polido, our coordinator, and attended, of course, by the supervisors and trainers for our department. In one of the pages here, we see that on bullet number 4, checking the bus for children left behind is everyone's responsibility. Drivers and monitors must work as a team and check every inch of the bus at every stop. We ask that our drivers not check them just at the end, but after you complete your elementary, go through your bus and make sure that there's nobody, and also checking for backpacks and things that may be left behind. After your middle and high school, do the same thing at your school. And once you get back to base, we ask that they not only check again, but they also clean and mop their buses and sweep and do their post-trip inspections.
No, Mr. Barbosa, sorry, Mr. Barbosa.
Yes, sir, go ahead.
A question. Mr. Barbosa, is it, I saw it on the last slide, after the bus driver does make the walkthrough, are they to report to dispatch to let them know that everything is clear?
They do not, sir.
They don't?
They don't. What we've done is they're supposed to spray with Quad 39, the approved, and so they have a red flag that with a magnet that we developed, and so that tells us that they've disinfected. But by disinfecting, they would have gone by seat by seat by seat by seat, and so the back bumper should have a red vinyl flag.
So let me ask you, are you done, Mr. Allen? Yeah, okay. So was the red flag on the back of this particular bus?
It was not, sir.
So obviously, they did not follow the protocol set in place.
That is correct.
Because if they would have disinfected the bus, they would have seen that somebody was asleep in the back.
That is correct.
Very good. Continue, sir. Thank you.
So one of the other slides that we covered is that all employees will receive an approved handbook and agree to read it, and it is online, so they must sign that they understand this, and we go over pages, and I'll get to that in a little bit. And each employee is responsible for all information contained in this handbook, and all employees are expected to read and follow the handbook rules and policies and guidelines. So we covered this in August, and then we go through it throughout the year. Also within this PowerPoint that we covered was employee negligence, accidents, employee time card, sexual harassment. Follow the handbook and all rules and regulations as the year progresses. And if you don't, you may elicit suspension without pay, pending investigation, and discipline up to termination. So that lets you know that from page to page, from A to Z, you must follow everything within the book. And also employees that fail to follow, we see that they can receive a suspension with pay, without pay, a verbal reprimand, written reprimand, letter to the file, suspension of trips or extra duties, lower evaluation scores, and up to termination. Again, depending on the severity of the matter. So then let me touch very quickly on the DPS approved training for all Texas school bus drivers. And again, I want to remind you that it is a 20-hour course for initial new bus drivers. And then every 3 years you take an 8-hour recertification through Region 1 as well. Under the section Chapter 5, loading and unloading, which is page 65, I'm going to go to the next page. We see on page 81 there it says under number 9, count the students that have left the bus. If you cannot account for a student, you should secure the bus, check around and underneath the bus, and on number 10, check the bus for hiding/sleeping students and items left by students. This is a training that we all received.
Mr. Barbosa, in order to count the students that left the bus, you need to count the students that loaded the bus, right?
Correct.
So they do a count of the students that load, and they should do a count to equal out to 0, correct?
That is correct, sir. So
obviously this individual did load the bus. It wasn't accounted for.
that is correct.
Another protocol that wasn't followed.
That is correct, sir. You are correct.
Okay?
So let's go month to month. Our department safety meetings, these are the agendas that we provide to our employees. This one is dated Tuesday, September 27th, 2022 at 9:30 a.m. And obviously, we go over through the district-mandated safety protocols and information provided by Dustin Garza and his staff, Miranda Gallo specifically. But under other business, if we look there at Roman numeral 2, it says check your bus for sleeping children after each route/trip, because we wanted to check after trips as well. You never know. It could be a football player fell asleep. And so that was in September. We go to November the 3rd, which was a Thursday, and again, we covered the district-mandated safety protocols and information. And under other business, if you look under Roman numeral 2, or I, it says check your bus for sleeping children after each route/trip. So this is something that we do all the time. And again, right after that, it says disinfect your bus. So while you're disinfecting, you're checking. We also ask that as they're walking through the aisle, that they slap the seats in case there's a child sleeping. If it's dark, at least they'll be startled and wake up. So
Don't our buses have lights inside?
they do, sir. They
Okay,
do.
well,
But we want to make
we
sure.
could take care of that by turning on the light, right?
But we ask that they slap the seats.
Slap it too. Just make sure you don't hit a kid.
Absolutely. Yes, sir. Our buses do have lights inside. On December the 1st, this one specifically because she works in the Johnny Economies cluster, we had the police officer there from Hargill, nonetheless, Heriberto Vigil and Officer Miguel Mendoza came and did a presentation on vaping instruments and vaping in general. We felt that it was important that our drivers receive the latest information.
Yes,
And
sir.
So he did his presentation, but still, under other business, you see under Roman numeral II, check your bus for sleeping children after each route and trip. So even though we're talking about something that's completely different, we still hit the safety on the children. It's something that we do all the time. The week after, Tuesday, December 6th, we had our monthly safety meeting, again from Miranda and Mr. Dustin Garza. We covered the information that was covered or sent to us from them. And again, under other business, we see there under Roman numeral 6, check your bus for sleeping children after each route and trip. And again, right after that, disinfect your bus. So you can do both things at the same time. When we came back from Christmas, we had a staff development day once again at Robert Villa High School Performing Arts Center, Tuesday, January the 3rd, 2023. We had a series of videos that need to be covered. These are mandated, and so you see there's sexual harassment, sexual misconduct, bullying, child abuse, which is part of the situation that may have occurred last night, youth suicide, and then in the afternoon we had our new insurance company, TPS and McGriff. They did a presentation on bus accident avoidance and doing the right thing. And again, at the end, we see the do not drop off elementary children without a parent/guardian at the stop. That's important because this is all part of it. Because if a child if there's nobody to receive them, then we have them take them back to school. So when I called that driver and I asked her, did you take any students back to school? She said, no, I did not. So and so again, but we tell them, you must let us know when you're taking, because the question came up earlier by Dr. Alamia, that do we notify? Yes, they must notify dispatch, and it's recorded for months on end. We have it in say that they must notify dispatch if they're going to take a child back to school. In this case, the child was taken back to school unbeknownst to the driver, but there was no notification. And so when I called her on the phone, she said, no, I didn't take anybody back. And so we talk again about school safety.
And if I may ask, Board President?
Yes, sir.
The schools that have buses after the end of the day that are left there are what schools? I know Brewster's one and Hargill. Is there any other schools that our bus drivers leave the buses there at the end of the day?
No, ma'am. It's just Brewster and Hargill, and we like to hire our drivers from Brewster because they know the families, they know
Correct.
the area, and Hargill as well. This driver was from Hargill, lives there, and the other driver as well is from the area. She lives in the area, and so we like to keep them there instead of having to drive and use their vehicle to come in, or worse, have dead miles driving back and forth to
Yes.
base. We hire folks from the area. It just
It makes
it's good
sense.
business sense.
Yes, sir.
And so
Okay.
she is a community member there.
Okay, and one last question. My mind went blank. Go ahead.
Well, I was
Comes
going to
to
say,
me.
that's a good segue. We also have fuel out there to save. And this is not part of this, but just so you know,
Yes.
we have fuel at Brewster, so the drivers never have to come into town. The Hargill drivers, they end their route at Johnny Canamides, and so they'll come in and fuel up here and go back. We don't have fuel at Hargill anymore. I'm not
Okay.
sure if that was where you were headed.
Okay.
And as President Farias mentioned, last Friday we did have another training, 8 to 3 at the Robert Vela Performing Arts Center. And we had a lot of videos on stress management. One of the things that our drivers say is that our job is very stressful. So we did stress management, first aid, defensive driving, transportation safety, bus behavior and discipline. And then in the afternoon, we had evacuation planning for students with special needs, which is extremely important, and distracted driving. And so it was all about safety. It was all about transportation and what we need to do on a daily basis, not once in a while, all the time. And under other business, again, we talked about not dropping off elementary students without a parent or guardian at the stop, that we need to cross all children should they need to be crossed. We'd rather that they change the route so that we have nothing but right-hand drop-offs. And we talked about the after-school program, the ASPs, that they will continue, and that children are paramount. School safety is number one. We also took pictures of everybody because we're going to issue new IDs because we feel we need to be in line with the district for safety as well. As President Farias mentioned, we just talked to them about these safety features last Friday. We were there approximately till about 2:45, 3 o'clock. We dismissed and drove all the bus drivers back, and they went on either home or 2 trips.
And Mr. Barbosa, Ms. Gonzalez is going to ask a question, but before that, do you have a timeline you're going to share with us of the way the incidents happened?
I can verbally say it. I did. I don't have it in a timeline.
Okay. Ms. Gonzalez, go ahead.
That needs to take place has taken place. What I think is a major missing from here, from all this information, is that we don't seem to have a way to monitor that this is happening. I mean, these are great rules, whether it was from the state or where you presented them in the name of safety, but there doesn't seem to be, or at least not presented here, a way for someone at central office or a transportation office, some administrator, you have lots of supervisors, to make sure that this is happening on a daily basis.
Correct.
And that the most important thing is making sure that no one is left on the bus. Now, you're taking that totally at face value. And I'm saying we need to have a way that these bus drivers feel the responsibility to call someone via, we have excellent technology, I'm sure, that we can use, but on a daily basis, someone in line of responsibility needs to know that this happened, that they check the bus. I mean, it seems like something routinely, but apparently not. And we can't just hope that it's happening. We need to know on a daily basis that it has happened.
Absolutely.
Not after we get a 911 call.
Absolutely.
And Mr. Barbosa, also, I know that all the buses have a total of 4 cameras, correct?
That's correct. A minute.
And a minimum. So we have the technology in place that we can use to verify that these bus drivers are doing their job on checking, not only disinfecting, but also checking the buses. I believe that is a recommendation that we need to make sure that we use all our resources to verify that they're doing their job to keep our kids safe. Because what's the use of having all this technology? We don't use it.
Correct.
That's important. And then also, I also heard that our newer buses have devices that have alarms in the back, that the only way to turn off that alarm is to physically get up, go all the way to the back, and hit a button or something. But I also heard that there's buses that we do not have that technology, 2007 and behind or beyond, but I'm sure that technology can find something to retrofit those buses so we can go ahead and I'm not going to use money as an excuse for us not retrofitting whatever we need to do so we can have every precaution taken to keep our kids safe. So that's another recommendation, I believe, that we're going to bring to you. But I just want to make sure, as Ms. Gonzalez said, supervision is key. Oversight is key. We have all the tools to do it. We're not using them. So that's something that we need to definitely do. Ms. Garcia.
And Mr. Barbosa, it was brought to my attention what Mr. Farias just stated, that our newer buses, if I'm not mistaken, the Thomas buses, is that what they're called, right? The newer ones?
Yes, ma'am. We have
Okay.
International, Bluebird, and Thomas.
Okay, so the newer buses, they do have that mechanism in the back where the emergency door is. So the bus driver is supposed to get up, not only check and disinfect, but in order to silence that ring tone, they have to go press that button. But on the older buses, like Mr. Farias stated, they do have, some of them, I'm not sure of all, but that's what you're going to answer us right now.
Correct.
The older buses have that little bell too, but the only way to silence it is to open the emergency door and close it. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And do all the older buses have that device?
They do not, ma'am.
How many of them do not?
I would say that the older ones, and let me preface it by saying that in 2007, in the state of Texas, Texas is a very progressive state. It was mandated that every single new school bus from 2007 and on had to have the child minder alarm, no matter what the manufacturer was, any one of the three majors, or all of them, in fact. And so, but buses prior to that did not have them. And so you can retrofit, but we have buses that range all the way back to 1993. And so we have buses that do not have those alarms, but they certainly we can address that immediately.
And as we have said throughout different meetings that we've had, board meetings, committee meetings, that is something that the board would not have a problem in taking care of financially.
Correct.
Because of the safety of our children.
Absolutely.
And you know, it's not an issue, but it should have been brought forward years ago. Years ago.
But
Hold on. Ms. Gonzalez, I'm going to allow Dr. Alemia. He asked for permission to speak, and then we'll go to you, ma'am.
All right.
Go ahead, Dr.
Hadn't
Alemia.
finished.
Mr. Barbosa?
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
You sure?
Yeah, go ahead.
Don't get in trouble.
Mr. Barbosa, I believe Mr. Farias earlier mentioned that each bus has how many cameras? 4?
They have a minimum of 4. Our newer buses, we're putting 5, sir. It's on the windshield looking out forward.
Okay.
And then we also, on our newer buses, have, I guess, passive cameras that are perimeter 360.
Okay.
So if you put your blinker to the right in the rearview mirror, it has a computer screen in there. And so it'll turn on the camera on this side to make sure that you can see that there's no cars or children as you're turning right, left, or when you put your stop arms out, sir, all the cameras turn around, including one on the hood. And so you see a complete perimeter of our buses to make sure no children have either gone behind or below or chasing the paper under the bus, etc. Those are on our newer buses, but those are passive. They don't record.
And do we have any, there's no cameras on the inside going towards the back to make sure that every child is being I guess accounted for, monitored?
Yes, in fact, the 5th camera faces out. All the other 4, there's one on the bus driver that faces the door so we can see the driver's actions and reactions, plus what's going on at the main door. We have one right above him on the bulkhead looking to the seats, probably the first 4 or 5 seats in front. We have one that's called the midship that monitors what's going on in the middle of the bus, and we have one at the very, very back, sir, by the back door looking back forward to see what's going on at the back.
So if we were to take a look at all the bus footage, the camera footage from that incident that occurred yesterday, would we be able to find that student asleep?
I did.
Okay. So then even though the bus driver failed, we still here at central office have the access to check and say, you missed somebody.
Absolutely.
So we need somebody actually here to double check those cameras in order for every student to be going home to their families safely without being missed, whether it's by the bus driver or whether it's by our bus transportation department.
Correct. The video is not live. It's recorded onto a hard drive, 1 terabyte, and so we would have to, it'd probably be easier if we just went bus by bus, had a crew that would go bus by bus and, and check to make sure, verify, triple check, quadruple check that there are no children aboard the bus.
Okay.
Can I ask a question?
Hold on, Ms. Gonzalez is
Okay.
next. Go ahead, Ms. Gonzalez.
And a quick fix to the fact that in that situation yesterday, she was not she was on a different bus, right?
That is correct, sir. Her
So-
bus is a 2012.
Right. So since you know that you're going to have younger students on those buses, a quick fix is don't, when you have to substitute a bus, don't substitute a bus that doesn't have the equipment that it needs to make sure those 3, 4, and 5-year-olds are left behind. I mean, I know it's quick to just go get this other bus. Well, wait a minute, if he doesn't have cameras, if they don't have what they need to supervise those little ones, because the little ones are going to go to sleep. They're tired at the end of the day. So why take a chance on giving them a bus that's not going to give you what you need to ensure the safety of the student?
Yes, ma'am.
That's a quick fix. I mean, don't take a, duh.
Yes, ma'am.
And the other thing, like it has already been said, we need to find a way that those buses are monitored on a daily basis, not at the end of the day or at the end of the week or once a week. No, every day. Whatever it takes. You have enough supervisors, you have enough staff
Yes, ma'am.
that should not be a problem.
It shouldn't.
We have two-way radios on every single bus, and it wouldn't take very much for the driver, after they've completed their check of the bus, to call it in and say, dispatch. We have a dispatcher till 7 p.m. Of course, we have routes that run a lot longer as well as trips, but we can certainly entertain possibly having somebody stay longer.
Like yesterday was such a terrible day for the heat. I mean, we're talking, the paper, the news, the TV, it's going to be 100 today.
Yep.
Did anyone have a serious conversation with the bus drivers? Today, you make sure you get those kids in and out of those buses as quickly as you can.
Yes, ma'am. We asked them to be
Nothing like that happened.
Yep.
Come on. Somebody needs to be alert.
Yes, ma'am. Absolutely.
And sir, and every morning, and I know everybody starts at different hours, because there's students that get picked up at 6:30, 6:45, 7, as they start early, and maybe even earlier,
Yes.
especially in the rural area for the high schools to come in. I mean, it's something that if everybody has radios, then someone needs to put out a reminder, because I know it's hard in the morning to meet and gather, to be able to give that talk like, okay, be safe, check the seats, did you check your tires? Now, they have a log that they follow, right?
Yes.
And they have to sign off on it?
Right, a pre-trip inspection.
Okay, so at the end of the day, they turn in that log, sir?
You're correct, ma'am, as well as anything that needs to be, they put in their mileage.
Right.
Because we charge back on mileage.
Correct.
And so they put their beginning mileage, and at the end of the day, they put their closing mileage, and anything that may have been found wrong. I need air in my
Anything
tire,
wrong with their-
my radio's not working, et cetera.
Okay, but someone every morning needs to give a report or let the bus drivers know. Like you said, everybody's got a radio. It's going to be hot. The weatherman is saying it's supposed to be 103 degrees. Make sure, like, you just have to be reminding. We shouldn't have to be reminded. We know our responsibilities. We know what we have to do, and it should be on our own honor system.
Correct.
But however the case, there's nothing wrong with getting the mic or the walkie-talkie, the radio, and saying, hey, you all need to be alert. It's going to be 100 degrees today. Be careful with the little children, with all the small students. And going back on the bus cameras, is there someone that views it daily? Is there someone in particular that just looks at the cameras and just to check off bus 43, bus 65, bus 79, whatever the case may be? Is there someone who checks it daily?
Not necessarily, Madam Vice President. What we have is Jaime Castillo and I. We're the only ones that view it, because sometimes the videos are very sensitive. And
Yes, sir.
So Mr. Castillo is a professional and contract as well as myself. So we're the only ones that have seen them or can see them, although we do have a camera crew that goes daily. We have 4 gentlemen that go and check all our cameras and do cleaning and updates, whatever. And with their laptop, they can briefly see what's being recorded to make sure that it is recording, but their job is not to be viewing, but in and of itself, they have to. And so they go around and check buses on a daily basis, Monday through Friday. And they do repairs, installations, de-installations, et cetera.
Okay, and I'm going to make a recommendation that possibly for us to consider putting an emergency notice. God forbid it should ever happen again, but it just so happened that somebody was passing by and saw this student at the gate, correct, of the school grounds?
That's correct.
Okay, so I know they probably called 911, but that should be posted on there, and an emergency number of someone to contact in this district to make, for anyone who might see what happened last night, which I pray that we don't see it ever again, but we need to put some signage, some emergency contact numbers, call 911. That should be the first thing. Second, somebody from the district needs to be contacted.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Barbosa,
Yes, sir.
the timeline. Can you let me know or let us know the timeline on how everything happened in real time? Like I said, we're not here to hide anything. We're here to be transparent, and we would like to know the timeline of the incidents as they occurred.
Sure, sir. And so it started out, I was talking to a bus driver from Hartgill, a different driver, female, and she was calling saying that there was nobody to receive a child at a particular home. So as I got on the Skyward to check the addresses and phone numbers, traffic came through that there was a child that was possibly had not been delivered.
At what time, sir?
This would be 6:30. I then received, by 7 o'clock, I received a call exactly at 7. Maria Gonzalez, principal of Hartgill, called me and said, Mr. Barbosa, I'm on my way back to school. There is a child that's missing. They say he's there at the school.
How did the principal know the child was missing?
Somebody called her. I imagine either the young man that found him, somehow they got a hold of her.
Okay, so you don't know who got a hold of her?
I don't.
If it was a parent, or if it was the one that receiving them, or anything of that nature?
Hartgill's a very close-knit, possible.
Excuse me just a bit. The chief of police is aware of those timelines because he completed the investigation. Right now he is in municipal court, but I texted him if he could come over here. He would be able to answer that question.
I would like some representation from law enforcement here to answer our questions.
If it couldn't be Chief Bettis or his
Somebody
assistant should have
has
been
to.
here.
The chief, because he was there.
Okay.
Okay,
So
okay,
I asked him if he could.
Okay, if this timeline, let's go back a little bit. This timeline started at 6:30. What time did the child leave the campus?
The driver stopped her bus at 6:16, and so the camera rolled for about another 5 minutes or so, and then it cuts off. It doesn't stay on because it uses the battery. We can adjust it. There's been situations where we have it run for 3-4 hours more.
Can you put a motion detector to automatically turn it on?
I'd have to call the company. It's possible, sir.
Okay, because that would be important if we can have a motion detector not only for a child sleeping, but in case one of our buses gets broken in,
Yeah.
we have the evidence of something, because I hear the buses are not lockable.
That's correct. Buses are not lockable, and that's always been the question. We don't want them locked. So
Okay,
in
so
case-
if we don't want them lockable, we need to see somehow to get a motion detector in there for dual purposes. Number one, in case this other happens, it can alert us that there is a child getting up, walking around in the bus. And the other reason is, in case they get broken into, not only do we have the alert, but we have the evidence.
You are correct, sir. In fact, that's exactly why we set the cameras longer. We had people who were breaking into our buses. They were in Hartgill years
Okay,
ago.
so-
we were able to record it.
So,
Extended hours.
Dr. Salinas, if you can look into seeing if we can add a motion detector to automatically turn on the buses, the cameras.
Yes, sir.
Right, to extend it.
Sure.
Okay, Ms. Gonzalez, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I'm sorry, can we maybe consider going into closed session until we wait for Chief to come in?
That's a good idea.
Yes, because that way we can get the timeline from them. And I don't mean to put you in that position because he's the one that I think handled it with a timeline and kept records of all that. So it's only fair for us to ask him those questions.
Mr. President, may I continue? Because I have.
Oh, yes, sir. I
We have
apologize.
the handbook. I wanted to cover our handbook.
Yes, sir.
This is such a major thing for our department that we have it in 3 different sections. So under page 15 of our handbook, under mandatory practice, it says drivers are required to perform the following. Number 1, perform a walkthrough of the bus to ensure the bus is empty of passengers after any school bus activity. Any activity. Employees who fail to check the bus and leave children unattended in the bus will have their employment recommended for termination. And we reference DH there. Under page 17, once again, under driver's duties, responsibilities, letter B, will perform a walkthrough of the bus to ensure that the bus is empty of passengers after any school bus activity, whether it's a route, a trip, etc. Employees, once again, who fail to do this will have a recommendation for termination. And again, on page 22, under your post-trip, again, we have policy and procedures and post-trip operation under number 7. Again, before exiting your bus, make a walkthrough of your bus to ensure that the bus is empty of passengers. And again, employees who fail to check the bus and leave children in the bus will have their employment recommended for termination.
And Mr. Barbosa, we're not questioning if we have the proper procedures or the proper protocols. What we're questioning is the oversight to make sure that these protocols and procedures are being followed. And we have all the equipment to verify. We just need to make sure that we confirm that these protocols are being met. And if they're not, we need to follow this policy, and because these are serious repercussions. I mean, only by the grace of God, nothing happened to this child, okay? I'm not going to downplay this. This is a serious situation, but yet, thank God for His grace, but we have responsibilities that we need to make sure to do our part, that this does not happen. And so we are going to be recommending whatever it takes. Now, I thought of something. See what you guys think. It would be great to have some sort of a lifetime, real time with an iPad, the list of kids that are supposed to be on the bus, confirming they get on. As they get off, you hit the button and confirm they're all off. That way, at the end of the day, it's real time. We don't have to go look and we don't have to go back to tape to confirm, because they're confirming on real time instead of putting it on paper. 50 years ago, we put a man on the moon. I'm sure we can come up with a system or invent, come up with something. These things we need to learn from and be innovative and see how we can tweak it and make it better. And if it takes doing something like that on real time, so be it. Because we need to do whatever we can. And I just want to, Dr. Moreno, just throw that at you, your technology. So think about it.
Mr. President?
Yes.
Just reiterating what Mr. Farias was saying about improvements and safety for our transportation department. Let's all of us agree here that our transportation department is probably one of the most sensitive departments in the ECISD, because you are the first ones to see the kids in the morning and you're the last ones to see them at the end of the day. So in between, we know where they are, but we are ensuring the trust of each bus driver to pick up our kids and to drop them off, because those are the 2 main areas that we look at whenever there is a child missing or unaccounted for. This is already the 2nd time this month that an incident has happened within the transportation department. So I do believe that we need to make improvements, so that way we are making sure that every child is accounted for, when they go into the bus and when they come out. Because once they go into that bus, into the school bus, then they're our responsibility. Correct. Until we drop them off. So we need to make sure that we have everything set up correctly and safely for all of our students to be taken care of when they enter and when they exit.
To that point, sir, the technology already exists through an RFID card, just like this. And so that technology already exists, and we already work with a company, Tyler Technology, that we could partner with should the board direct us to do that.
Very good.
Okay.
Are you through your presentation, sir?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I wanted to mention that the bus that she normally drives is a 2012, and it did have that technology, and due to a breakdown, she was using a bus that did not have that technology. I think that was a question that was asked.
Yes, and Ms. Gonzalez's suggestion is that do everything possible, especially if you know you have young kids like that on the bus, if there is a bus to be used, that do everything possible to make sure it has that technology.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
I'm going to go ahead and make a motion to go into closed session to wait for our chief or a representative of the police department to come up here to answer the rest of our questions.
Chief Pettis just texted he's on the way.
Okay, we're still going to go to the back, and we have to have some discussions with legal. It's very sensitive. I just want to make sure that we follow all the rules.
Right.
Okay?
So move.
I got a motion?
Second.
A second. Time 12:42. Entering into closed session. Thank you. Very good. Time is 1:26. I'd like to make a motion to come in from closed session.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion second. We're going from closed session to open session. For the record, no action was taken in closed session. We will go ahead and continue with the discussion and possible recommendations concerning bus safety protocols, procedures, and bus driver training. Dr. Salinas, do we have a presentation coming up?
I believe Chief Perez we were inquiring on a timeline,
Yes, sir.
and I believe Chief Perez, of all our personnel, he would have the most accurate timeline.
Very good.
He was on site last night.
Thank you, Chief Perez. Go ahead, sir.
Good afternoon, Board President Farias, Superintendent Dr. Salinas, our honorable board, and our legal counsel. For the record, my name is Ricardo Perez. I'm Chief of Police for the Edinburg ISD. We are currently investigating an active case for a child endangerment. The defendant was taken into custody last night and subsequently charged with endangering a child and has been incarcerated at the City Police Department jail facility. The bus driver will be arraigned sometime this afternoon, and we're waiting to meet with the judge on that. I do know that I'm here to present on the timeline of the activities that occurred yesterday. I will tell you that we have a rough draft of the information because there's different timestamps. We have our dispatch timestamp. We have the surveillance video timestamps. So we are currently putting it together. We did work till past midnight last night to get all this case together to make a sound decision in law enforcement as a result of the law enforcement outcome of this case, right? It's still an open investigation. I am limited in information that I can give out because it is an active investigation, an active criminal investigation on Texas Penal Code 22.014 of endangering or abandoning a child under the age of 15 years of age. So to begin with the presentation, I will tell you that we do have reviewed a real-time bus and school campus video timestamps. I do have the major crimes investigator that is going to assist me in some of these questions because we have different times that were going on or different scenarios that were going on in this case. So I will tell you that I'm going to start that at 5:24 p.m. In reviewing the video, and we do have copies of this information if you need it. The Hargill student, which is a 5-year-old student, a kindergarten student, is seen loading the bus 550. At 6:15, bus 550 returns to the Hargill campus through the west side entrance. At 6:17 p.m., the bus driver, Ms. Munguia, exits the bus and walks off of the bus to her personal vehicle, and she subsequently leaves the premises. At about 6:18 p.m., the 5-year-old student is still asleep inside the bus. The camera is rolling. According to the transportation director, it's activated for about 5 minutes and then it disconnects. So we have that time frame. It is still somewhat of a daylight outside at that time frame. The bus did have open windows and an open door. It would not close. It was open. At 6:22 p.m., bus 550 cameras automatically shut off, and the student is still asleep in the bus. At about 6:36 p.m., the 5-year-old student is seen walking westbound from back to the campus through the parking lot on the east side, and he approaches the front main gate of the new side of the school.
Okay, and I'm sorry, can you repeat that time?
6:36 p.m. The student is seen walking southbound.
Now, when you seen the student is seen, is the student seen by a camera, an individual?
He's seen on camera.
On camera, okay.
We're going, right now I'm talking about the real-time, time-stamped camera. From the bus, where we see him sleeping, and then from the cameras that are posted on the building throughout.
On the build, from the school?
The outer perimeter of the building.
So approximately 8 minutes after the camera shut off, the student is seen on the cameras walking in the parking lot,
That's correct.
okay?
Okay.
So, once the student gets to the front gate on the southeast side of the campus, really the brand-new area, the gate's closed. He is able to make a decision to crawl underneath the gate to get outside of the perimeter of the campus, and that is on camera.
At what time is that?
That is right about 6:36 or so. Right?
Okay,
So once he gets outside of the gate, from going underneath the gate, we see him on camera walking in the middle of the street on the roadway. So there's where the endangerment starts coming in, different endangerment levels of where he treks through the campus outside to the perimeter.
let me go back. How far of the distance was from where the bus was parked to where he exited the gate?
I don't have the exact coordinates because that's something that we need to do through an aerial.
Okay.
To be specific, right? To give you an accurate number.
Yes, sir.
I will tell you that those of you who know the campus layout, it's a significant walk.
It is.
It is.
Some of our concerns are that there are rattlesnakes in the area.
Yes.
There's coyotes.
And there's mating season for rattlesnakes right now.
Yes.
Yes. So there's a lot of concerns. There's where the endangerments come in.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
The elements for.
We need to make sure we include those in whatever procedures we're going to do to hold this individual accountable.
Yeah, that was one of the elements to the charge.
Very good.
The endangerments to this case. So when the 5-year-old student, the male student, is on the roadway, in the middle of the road, there's a motorist, a 21-year-old motorist, a young male, that is seen approaching the intersection, and he stops, and he sees the 5-year-old, and in getting a statement from him, he's articulating, what is this 5-year-old doing on the roadway at this time? You know, he was also crying. He was crying and distraught, right? So the young man decides to get off and make contact with the little boy, and he asks the little boy, is everything okay? And he says, no, I want my mom, and I was asleep on the bus. Okay. The 21-year-old makes the decision to call his mom, his biological mom, his mother, and says, Mom, what do I do? I have a 5-year-old here. What do I do? The mother decides to call the sheriff's department. She calls the sheriff's department. Sheriff department dispatches 3 deputies to the location. Sheriff department goes ahead and calls our dispatch office to notify us. In the meantime, I'm listening to all this that's going on the radio. I'm on duty. I'm listening to as it's developing, right? One of the questions that you asked her was, how did the principal become aware? The principal became aware through her coach, Coach Craven. Coach Craven was notified by the mother of the 21-year-old concerned citizen who had custody of the child to make sure he was secured and safe. He also bought him Gatorade to hydrate him because he was been without liquid for a while. So he took that initiative. And the mother was able to get a hold of the coach through social media, through Facebook. And which in turn, it started developing to contact all these people. Once I got the information and listening to it as our dispatcher gave it out, I automatically got a hold of the campus police officer who was still on duty on the road, and I dispatched him back out to Hargill to make his way out there to make contact with the deputies and with the child to see exactly what occurred. The information was raw information. We weren't for sure exactly what the circumstances were. While I'm on the radio with dispatch and our police officer, I'm calling Mr. Barbosa on my cell phone. Mr. Barbosa is listening to me as we're developing the case and trying to find notify the proper individuals. I'm also notifying through text message our superintendent and those people that are pertinent, that need to be in that message, which is Dr. Garza and my patrol captain, my police captain. Those are the ones that I notify right away. We did have our investigator, our female investigator that was working the track meet at the time. I activated her to respond out there to Hargill. We notified our major crime investigator, Sergeant Calizales, to also respond out there. I made arrangements to go ahead and respond out there as well, contacting everybody that needed to be contacted. In the meantime, we're coordinating with the Sheriff's Office. Sheriff's Office did want to effect an arrest on the bus driver at the time. I did have my officer relay to the supervisor, the sergeant, that let me get there. This is jurisdiction of the school district, and we'll evaluate the circumstances. I did arrive on scene. I did talk to the patrol sergeant. I told them that we would take the case, and they agreed. I asked for their assistance to post on the perimeter to prevent any hostile individuals as a result of the area. So they agreed. We proceeded to do an active investigation. We did have the mother call Mr. Barbosa while I'm on the line with him, and she was briefed as to where her child was, and he was safe at the campus. I also advised Mr. Barbosa and myself that we're going to respond out there so we can be there on site to evaluate and do whatever we needed to do to make sure that the investigation was properly investigated, the child that was attended to, and that the case would be developing as we investigate, right? So now the timeline for that information, sir, we do have it. It's pretty much sequential. You know, how the principal got notified, everybody else that got notified. Basically, the time frame, begins from 5:24 to really about at 6:40. At 6:40, when the 21-year-old made a call to his biological mother, that's what we have on his affidavit, and then everything continued. All the information started to.
Let me ask you a question. At what time was there contact with the mother of the 5-year-old child?
We have that information at right about 7:06.
Okay.
Because I'm on the line with Mr. Barbosa, and I hear her call a phone line that Mr. Barbosa has, and I'm listening to her conversation when she calls, and Mr. Barbosa is explaining to her where her son is at.
Okay. My concern is that was at 7 what?
7:06.
7:06.
7:06. Now, the child was recorded getting on the bus at 5:24. The bus came back at 6:15. So obviously between 5:24 and 6:15 would be the time that the child should have been dropped off at their home. I'm concerned of the lapse of time of when the mother either called or the mother was notified of the situation. I need you to look into that and find out why the lapse of time is, I would say, easily 48 minutes. Okay? Now, that's being very, very gracious because, of course, the child would have been dropped off before 6:15, obviously, because the bus was stopped at 6:15. So I would like to know why it took such a long time for either party to contact each other.
So let me tell you the preliminary information that we have to answer the question.
Very good, sir.
The question to that is that the child's mother works for Edinburg CISD.
Okay.
She works in the kitchen. That's at one of our campuses. The mother has a written permission to transportation for the bus drivers to deliver the child.
Okay.
Because she works here in town. Of course, Hargill is
Yeah.
considerable miles.
Oh, yes.
So
Yeah.
she has it where our bus drivers are responsible for getting this child home, right? Obviously, that didn't occur, right? Didn't occur. The time frame where the child is riding the bus during the deliveries and doesn't get off, and the bus driver gets back to the campus, there's where the break in time is. Right? Once the child is taken, taken to safety measures by the 21-year-old and the sheriff's department, now we need to locate a number to contact this 5-year-old's parents. Now, I don't know if they call the number that was on the backpack. That's something that, like I said, this information is developing as we work.
Yes, sir.
We're working on it, right?
Yes, sir.
And if-
That's where we're at right now on that information.
And if I may ask, how did she know to call Mr. Barbosa?
Because I listen to the radio 24/7. I know everything is going on.
Okay.
And my initial instinct is that since we have so many bus routes that are going on, he needs to be aware of what we're responding to as it's developing.
But how did the mother know to call him?
Ask Mr. Barbosa.
Oh, Mr. Barbosa, I'm sorry, Chief. Mr. Barbosa, how did the mother know to call you on that cell phone?
Madam Vice President, in the past, we've had a lot of conversations with the mother because of the fact that she needed a hardship form for
Okay.
other folks to see.
Okay.
Okay,
So she
then
had my number.
she had your number.
And so as I'm on the phone, on my personal line with Chief, she's calling me on the phone, and she called me, I believe, at 7:03 as a missed call. So then I called her back immediately at 7:05, and she said, how come my son hasn't gotten home? At this time, I don't have a name, so
Right,
I'm not
right.
triangulating that this was who we're looking for.
Right.
And then I called her back after we got the name, and I said, your son is the name that he has? And she said, yes. I said, he's at the campus. And of course, the question was, why is he there? I said, well, he's safe, but he's at the campus. And she says, I'm on my way. And I said, I'll meet you there.
And they're from Hargill,
They're from Hargill, that's correct.
Right there in town.
A little bit south.
a little bit south.
Correct.
Okay.
The town proper doesn't get bus rides. It's the children that live south.
South on 493 or?
That's correct, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Chief.
So as a result of getting this information, so that y'all will be aware how swift we're working on this information, because I have to make a decision. Was there a criminal violation that occurred? We had to gather the surveillance camera information from the campus and from the bus and put it together. And the information that we viewed on the camera of the circumstances they're egregious because it's a child of 5 years of age. The terrain of the country school. So those are all elements to the charge that I felt was adequate because of what occurred, which is endangering a child, child endangerment or abandonment, Texas Penal Code 22.014. As a result, the female bus driver was cooperative. She did give a statement after being given her parental warning rights. She did voluntarily give a statement. She was informed that night, or really early or late last night, that she was going to be charged. And some other circumstances that occurred that I can't really discuss because they're personnel matters. I know the superintendent is aware of the after being charged what she did after that regarding a personnel matter, and she was subsequently taken to the city jail. Now, right now, she is waiting arraignment before Judge Bustos. I was over there to make sure that everything went smooth, and we're still waiting on the judge. So it is a state jail felony is what she's charged with, and the case is still actively being investigated. The information that we are developing, it is very important that I told the major crimes investigator that we need an aerial view of how far he trekked
Yes,
to
we
get out
do.
of the campus, and identify the endangering factors to the elements to the criminal case. So that's forthcoming.
Very
Do you
good.
have any more answers that I can answer for the board?
No, but thank you, sir.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Yeah, That was a great presentation, and it answered a lot of our questions as far as the timeline is concerned, and I know you're still putting it together. And I appreciate all the hard work and the sleepless night you both had, because I know it was hard for the soup and us also to get some sleep. But I'm glad that we brought all this up to the forefront. That way, anybody that is interested, is watching, heard it the same time we heard it as board members.
Yeah.
So a wonderful job, great job. I wanted to go ahead and ask if Dr. Anthony Garza, if you have any comments or anything to bring to this conversation, since I believe it falls under your department.
Yes, sir. Mr. President, we have a case here of an employee that failed to follow procedures. And we heard the procedures earlier. They failed to sweep the bus from the back to the front and account for every child. The employee was negligent in their duties. They're no longer employed with the district. And you heard it, appropriate charges have been filed. I just want to give kudos to the chief for staying up all night, keeping me and the superintendent in the loop, and making sure that we finalize that investigation late into the night and then prepare for today. But unfortunately, we have 5,000 employees, and there's always one here and there that doesn't fulfill their duties, and the superintendent has to act quickly on our recommendation of what we're going to do with them. And this is one of those cases.
And one of the reasons why we called this meeting was, it wasn't because it was an employee that feeds their child and is late. It's an employee that endangered a child. And we don't want to give the perception that, oh, you know, it happens. No, it's unacceptable. So that's why we did what we did. So the media, the public, everybody will know exactly what happened, what transpired, and the actions we're going to take to tighten up our system and to go ahead and see if we can make it better, which we always can. So I appreciate all the hard work, the sleepless nights, and unfortunately, there's things that happen, but let's take this opportunity, number one, to thank God that the child was safe, is safe, and the child's okay. And number two, take the opportunity to see how we can learn from this and better ourselves as a district, because we know our kids always come first. So I want to thank all of you. I want to sincerely thank you. Board, thank you for showing up. You showed the importance of showing up on this sensitive subject. And Dr. Salinas, you've heard our recommendations. Yes, sir. And we look forward to see what we are going to want an update on all this on our upcoming board meeting. Be sure to put it on the agenda, and that way we can go forward. Yes, sir. Is there any other comments or discussion with the board that I would like to make?
No.
Only to say that we really appreciate all the hard work, especially from the chief and Mr. Barbosa. Mm-hmm. There's no doubt in our mind that we have the right protocol. You have spent a lot of time putting together what needs to be happening, but we also recognize that this is an opportunity to improve. Perhaps we have not looked at how big a problem transportation can be if we're not on top of it and have the right oversight with daily supervision of what is in paper to make sure that it's happening. And I think we have the right staff. I think we have great bus drivers that are committed to boys and girls, yes. But we need the constant reminder of what their job responsibility is. And if we can improve it, I think this will give us the opportunity to do that. Thank you for all your hard work.
Well said. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody.
Would you like to say anything? Or very good. I'd like to take this moment to make a motion or ask for a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
You got a motion and a second. Meeting adjourned, 1:50 p.m.